Welcome, everybody. We're excited for you all to be here. This is our Customized Employment Solutions Echo, and we are so excited for you all to be here. If you haven't done so already, please provide us with your name, organization, and position in the chat. It's just great to see where people are joining us from and who we have in our audience. So just want to give you a little bit of background about this project. This is a collaboration between two NDCPD projects, ND Create and Project Echo. So our goal for this series is to really equip transition teachers and employment specialists to better advocate for inclusive work environments, to be able to foster those stronger partnerships with employers, and be able to help students achieve meaningful and sustainable employment. So we're hoping that you participants will be able to gain some practical insight into how customized employment can be incorporated into your daily work. We're hoping that you have a better understanding of the VR processes and learn to overcome some of the common misconceptions about Social Security benefits and competitive integrated employment, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So before we begin, we really want to describe what sets an Echo session apart from your other typical trainings. So in essence, Echo allows us to move information and not people. And you participants can learn about a topic and become a resource for your community and also get that chance to network and partner with other people that are on the call. So we really encourage participation because it's the key to the success of our sessions. We really want to have an interactive community where our presenters, stakeholders, and participants all communicate and support each other during a session. So if you're comfortable, please turn on your camera because it just helps us connect. And we appreciate when you are engaged in asking questions after the presentation. We are offering social work continuing education credits for your participation in these live sessions. So in order to receive your credit, please fill out the evaluation survey that is sent out after this session. We'll put that in the chat when this presentation is all done. I'm going to go ahead and skip the housekeeping because we're on our third session here. So let's go ahead and start with some introductions. I'm really pleased to introduce our speaker today, who is Amy Bergen from RSI here in Minot. She's going to talk to us about benefits planning. So Amy, we'll let you go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me. I always love a chance to geek out and talk on Social Security benefits. I'm sure you guys eyes are glossing over and rolling in the back of your head right now. But I'll give a kind of a brief introduction about my position. So I am partially funded by the WIPA program. So the WIPA program is a work incentive planning and assistance program. And it's a grant funded position through the Social Security Administration to provide benefits planning services to people. And I get referrals then from the Ticket to Work helpline. So if somebody has questions, or maybe they might get the Social Security notice that says, hey, here's information about the Ticket to Work program. If you have concerns about working, all that jazz, call this number. And then when they call that number, then they will get referred to me. I cover the state of North Dakota. I'm the North Dakota CWIC, the Community Work Incentive Coordinator. I also am partially funded from vocational rehabilitation. So if you guys have if you're working with somebody who is hooked up with VR and already receiving services from them, chances are they will be or have been already referred to us at RSI for benefits planning. So we have another benefits planner here in the office, Jana Hennix, and another also, sorry, he fills in as needed, and it's Terry Peterson. So if you guys have any questions, if you are working with somebody who is a VR client within the last 3 years, they can just call us directly. Once they've opened a case with VR, they can always call us with anything. If it's been more than 3 years since the person that you're working with has been with VR, then we ask that they call the Ticket to Work helpline. And I can get that number. I mean, it's easy if you just, let me see. The Ticket to Work helpline is 1-866-968-7842, or a quick little Google search will get you we'll get you the number. So anyway, that's in a nutshell kind of how our program is operating in North Dakota. If you're VR, you can call us, or VR clients, sorry, if it's been a while, Ticket to Work helpline. So anyway, I guess to explain what I do is we educate everybody who is receiving a Social Security disability benefit about the impact of work on their benefits, so they can make an informed decision about returning to work or starting work for the first time, because it can be super concerning for people that are just kind of getting back into it, or getting their feet wet into it, because SSI, SSDI, those cash benefits there, that's how they live, you know? So making sure that they are aware or know what's going to happen to their benefits when they go to work is important, and that's what we help them with. And also explain the impact of all other benefits received. So we're talking Medicaid, Medicare, housing assistance, SNAP benefits, those kinds of things. So we just kind of cover the whole gamut. And so it's partially like educating them, and then helping them to access different work incentives to either reduce the impact of earned income on their benefits, or like help them to earn more and still maintain their benefits. Um, so it's educating, but then also we do kind of, I don't know, scooping. So if people have issues with their benefits, that would be kind of um, that's when you should contact us. If there's a loss of like Medicaid, or a loss of like their SSDI or their SSI, that would be kind of a red flag, and super concerning to them. And if you contact us, we can hopefully help them come up with a game plan to resolve those issues. I'm going to give just a quick overview of the different benefit programs so that you guys know what I'm talking about, because um, I mean, I don't know your knowledge, comfort knowledge with the Social Security benefits. So I'm just going to start there so we have a little bit of something to go off of. So in Social Security world, we have two different types of disability benefit programs. One is called SSI, or Supplemental Security Income, and the other is SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. So it's kind of, they're under the same program, or I'm sorry, under the same Social Security umbrella, but two separate and completely different programs. So SSI, Supplemental Security Income, that's kind of like your income and needs-based program. So to be eligible for these, you have to have a disabling impairment, and you have to have little income, few resources. So we're talking about resources, $2,000 less than $2,000 in your checking savings account. You can have one car, one house, an ABLE account, which I hope we chat on a little bit later. And I mean, it's limited. So if somebody is over resources, they're not going to be eligible for an SSI payment. So the max amount that somebody can get in 2024 in SSI is $943. So what happens when somebody goes to work is Social Security looks at that income that they have, and they they will adjust or calculate their SSI check based on that income. And whatever, after their calculation, whatever they come up with will determine their SSI check 2 months later. So income earned, say November 5th, or I'm sorry, we'll go at the end of the month, because they're going to look at all income earned in the month. So November 30th, they're going to say, you earned $800 gross. So that would be what they would use when they would figure out the SSI calculation and what their benefit will be 2 months later. So kind of a quick, easy rule of thumb. They take other deductions into consideration when they're figuring the SSI check, but just an easy way, how I do it in my head, is I say, okay, if somebody has $800 in earned income, Social Security will count about half of that. And so half of that is $400, right? So the max amount that somebody can get in 2024, I have to keep looking at the year to see what year we're in. Holy cow. So the max amount somebody can get in 2024 is 943. They've got $800 of income from their job, and half of that is 400. So they would subtract the $400 from the max amount of SSI. So 943 minus $400, their SSI check then would be $543. That's just a quick way. Like I said, they take more deductions. So that would just give you an idea of what to expect 2 months later. If they had, $800 worth of earnings, they would still get a $443 SSI check. So the two together, is $1,243. So even with an SSI check reduced, they're money ahead of the game from working. And that's a very common concern that I hear from people is like, I'm going to lose my SSI. And that is not the case. Like when they go to work, they're not going to count all of it. And as long as somebody is reporting their wages every month, if there is a month where they're rocking it working, they're making lots of money, and they're not going to be due an SSI check, they know then 2 months later, the SSI check is not going to be there. But if the following month, maybe they only made $400, then they'll get that SSI check for $543. So it's all about reporting for somebody who is on SSI, because that's what determines how they calculate their SSI payment. So when you hear somebody say, I can't work more than, or I can only work 20 hours, or whatever the case may be for somebody on SSI, they're always better off working. And the more the merrier, like as much as they can physically handle. That's what I would suggest. That's their earning limit. There is no true earning limit. If I had to give one earning limit for SSI, now I'm kind of backtracking, but that would be that they can't make over $53,000 in 2024. So that $53,000 is the Medicaid threshold limit for somebody who's on SSI. So what that means is if their SSI check goes to zero because they're working, as long as their annual income is not over that $53,000, they'll still keep their Medicaid. As long as they need the Medicaid to work and they don't have any other health insurance that can replace that Medicaid. So when I say there's no income limit, I kind of lied. They can't make over $53,000. I want to touch on quickly why Medicaid is so important and what it covers, because I'm sure that, like, I'm looking at the different providers and teachers that are in here. So what Medicaid covers is not only health insurance for doctor's appointments and medications and whatever, but it also covers waiver services. So waiver services, these are things that like we have some people here from CLS. So maybe they are, one I see here is an employment consultant. So chances are that that person that is on SSI also has Medicaid and also has waiver services. And these waiver services are like job coaching through like CLS or whatever other community provider. So Medicaid can pay for job coaching. Medicaid can also pay for residential services. I saw, what was another person here? I think I saw Carly from Calix coming in, but she doesn't do residential, but so like other places. CLS, I think you guys have some residential services too, right? Yeah, so that the Medicaid waiver then pays for like residential services. Hey girl, I see you turned your camera on. So residential services, vocational supports. It also pays for like case management for a DD case manager. So that's why Medicaid is so important. Also, home health. If you have somebody who needs to have somebody come in and help them get ready for work, like that's what Medicaid covers for the waiver services. So it's not just health insurance. So that's why it is very important for a lot of people where I've heard it many times that they're not so concerned about the cash benefit that comes along with the SSI. They're more concerned about Medicaid because when somebody is eligible for SSI, they are they're technically eligible for Medicaid. But in the state of North Dakota, they just have to go in and make that application before they can start receiving Medicaid and if any waiver services that go with it. So that kind of in a nutshell is the SSI program. Um, do you guys have any questions specifically about SSI?
I have
Any,
one question. Is there like an age that you typically qualify for SSI?
so um, that's a really good question. There is somebody can qualify for SSI as a baby, all the way up to, you know, like aged and like they're hitting their like if they haven't worked and earned enough credits to become eligible for SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, they would still be on SSI. So it's like all ages. There's not really an age limit. The one thing, because we do have a lot of transition coordinators and special ed teachers that work with transition age youth, the one thing that I want to bring awareness to is the fact that somebody under the age of 18 who is receiving SSI has to go through this thing called the age 18 redetermination process for SSI. And what that is it's Social Security is re-evaluating their medical criteria to ensure that they would meet the adult definition of disability. So what's that mean? Like if we have somebody who's under 18 and maybe they qualified for SSI as a child for ADHD, and like I'm not saying that it's when I go into this next part, I'm not saying that it is not a severe impairment or anything like that. I'm just saying that this is one of the ones that I've seen somebody qualify as ADHD as a child or a youth under 18. Then when they go through the age 18 redetermination, they may have more issues meeting the adult definition of disability. So that is one that I've seen. Like it's easier to qualify for SSI as a youth or under 18. There's more stringent criteria for over 18. So in that 18th year, the um, Social Security initiates this SSI age 18 redetermination. And the thing about this is that sometimes parents are not aware that this is going on. So if they go through this age 18 and they are not found eligible for SSI anymore, they'll get like the nastygram from Social Security and then benefits will stop like 2 months later. So if I had any suggestions for you guys working with families of transition age youth is to just make sure that they're aware that this is going to go on. It's at some point in their 18th birthday or year of their 18th birthday where they're going to relook at everything. So let the families know. Also have them hooked up either with like most often it's like vocational rehabilitation. Have them open a case with VR before they're like by 17, because they have to be open before the age 18 redetermination is initiated. Because if this person who is not found eligible as an adult, yeah, as an adult, they can request that benefits continue through this thing called Section 301. And if it continues, then if it's approved, then their SSI will continue throughout the whole time that they are hooked up with VR. Not only will their SSI continue, but their Medicaid will continue throughout the whole time that their VR case is open. Once their case will close with VR, then that's when their SSI would stop and the Medicaid would stop. So what's really important about this is that it offers just kind of it offers time for them to prepare. How are they going to have their, you know, their income? What are they going to depend on for income? Are they going to be able to find a job? What about their health insurance? What kind of needs are they going to be needing for health insurance? So this is a super critical time, and that the fact that they are hooked up with VR could allow them extra time to like plan for their life, you know. Not only I've seen where not just hooked up with VR, but like Job Corps, if that is maybe on their plan, go into Job Corps. And I've also seen like um if they have an IEP, that could also serve as a plan to, what's their phrasing? I have the phrasing in my head. Like an employment plan. I'm sorry, I don't have it right off the top of my head, but um an employment plan with the idea of like working off of benefits eventually. And so sometimes how those IEPs are worded would in effect meet that whole like Section 301 request to have benefits continued if they're working towards an employment goal to get off of them. So make sure the IEPs are updated, have them hook up with VR. So that's my little kind of blurb about that age 18 redetermination. Any questions on that? Okay, well, I also want to just touch on real quick when I'm talking with the transition age youth, or I'm sorry, transition age teachers. There's two other things to be aware of. So a lot of times people assume that when they're on Social Security benefits that it's SSI, but it could also be, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, but it could also be like a child benefit. So a child benefit is a benefit that they are getting because mom or dad are retired, disabled, or deceased. And they would get kind of like a portion of what mom or dad are receiving themselves, or a portion of what they would have been receiving. So that child benefit is not a disability benefit. It is a benefit just based off of mom or dad having worked and earned enough credits to become eligible for SSDI or have passed or retired. And that is also like there's no Medicaid that goes along with it. I mean, when I said at the beginning, I said that Medicaid, somebody on SSI is technically eligible for Medicaid. They just have to apply. This is a different story. There is no specific Medicaid group for somebody who is a child beneficiary. So it's not a disability benefit. And the other thing is that it will stop at 18. If they are going to be continuing in school until the age of 19, they can request that let them know that they're still in school, and then that child benefit can continue until 19. And then at that time, it will stop. The other thing about this child benefit is that if you are working with somebody who has a disability, but maybe they're not receiving any kind of disability benefit, maybe it's not an SSI benefit, maybe it's just this child benefit. When they turn 18, they could potentially be eligible for a disability benefit under the parent's record, the same as what that child benefit is. They would get kind of that same amount, except then it would be a disability benefit. But a lot of times people aren't aware that when that child benefit, that is not the disability benefit under 18, when that stops, that they can apply also for a benefit under mom or dad's work record that is a disability benefit. This is called a childhood disability beneficiary, or CDB for short. So if you've ever seen, now I'm going to kind of switch gears and talk to like those community providers. If you've ever seen somebody who is getting SSDI and they have no work record, that's why. Because they qualify because their disability began before the age of 22, and they qualify under mom or dad's work record. The other thing that I wanted to, oh no, I hit it. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm checking all the boxes in my brain there. So that is SSI, that is kind of some transition age youth stuff. I want to kind of switch gears now and talk about SSDI. Unless anyone has questions about SSI, questions or concerns, or maybe a specific case or question that they want to ask. Okay, well, if you have it later on, please, like, I think ask away. I think people get more benefit from talking about or hearing real life examples. So I think it's really, I prefer that. So I want to see, hold on.
There's
Oh yes, I can. So there is, I kind of flew past this one. So also for transition age youth, there is this thing called the student earned income exclusion. So what this is if they are a student and regularly attending school, I'm going to try and find and they say regular attendance, if they're under 22, regularly attending school and working, they can have a portion or a certain amount of income excluded when they're figuring out that SSI check. So in 2024, it's $2,290 per month what they would exclude. So Social Security, how it would work is that same person that we talked about before making $800, when they figured out their SSI check, it's roughly $543. But somebody's going to school, they're under the age of 22, they can exclude up to that $2,290 that per month. So that $800 is excluded right off the bat. And what happens there then is that their SSI check should not be reduced at all. So they're going to get the full $943 and of SSI along with their wages. So this is like this is the only time for somebody who is on SSI where they will not see a reduction in their SSI check from working. So anyone, this is just like another, like, whoa, go to work, try it out, test it out, figure out what kind of jobs work for you, because they will not be impacted by their work because of that, because they would meet that you're under 22, you're working and you're going to school. So how the regularly attending school, what does that mean? If they're up to grade 12, it has to be 12 hours a week. If they are in college, it has to be 8 hours a week in school. Or if they're in a training course, so like we're talking like Job Corps, then it has to be 12 hours a week that they have to be in that training course. So if they meet all that stuff, then they can have the student earned income exclusion. And the grand total that can be excluded per year is $9,230, yeah, $9,230 per year that can be excluded. So when they use up that total, then they would start doing that SSI calculation. So that $800 that they were earning would impact their SSI, and it would bring it down to that 543 that we talked about before. So super, super great work incentive. And one of the things, if you have somebody who is working and is a student or under the age of 22, if they have had their SSI reduced from any work experiences, work pay, like any pay that is coming in, then that's a red flag. That Social Security is not aware that they're a student. So what you can do is just share the IEP with Social Security. Not you, what you can suggest that transition age youth or the family does is give that as proof that they are a student in school. If they're in college, or maybe they're participating in the A-STEP program, same kind of thing. Either get like a course list or something that shows that they're in school. So thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the little, hey, talk on that one. Forgot about that one. Any other questions on SSI? Any work incentives, questions or concerns?
So somebody shared with me in the chat, they received SSI, and during the 2-year like reevaluation period, they were forced to move from marketplace insurance to Medicare, and it was kind of abrupt, and there wasn't really like any heads up that this was going to happen. Is this like a common thing, or like what would possibly lead the SSI to pivot in that way?
Did you say that they were on SSI?
Yeah, so I think it was during the 2-year evaluation on SSI. They were forced to move from a plan that they had from the healthcare marketplace to Medicare, but it was kind of like out of the blue, and like there was no heads up that that was going to happen.
But they had Medicaid though to start with?
I'm not sure. I'm seeing no.
Okay. So what like I said, SSI, you're technically eligible for Medicaid. So what I would suggest in that situation, if they were getting SSI and they were not getting any Medicaid, to contact the county and let them know, I am getting Medicaid, or I'm sorry, I am getting SSI, then they would be eligible for Medicaid, and they wouldn't have to go through the marketplace or whatever. So I think the big issue, or how that all came about, was that they didn't have or didn't apply for Medicaid to begin with. So that I mean, without knowing more details, that sounds like what happened. And unfortunately, that's been something that I see a lot um with like transplants coming to the state, because other states say, hey, you know what, you have SSI, we're just going to say you get Medicaid, you're good to go right away, right? Certain other states have different other criteria, but North Dakota says you need to apply. So often when they come into the state, they're unaware of that, and that can happen where they're not getting Medicaid, but they were before. So it's just a matter of applying.
Yeah, hopefully that answered the question, but if anything, we'll make sure that we send out that ticket to work helpline for somebody who isn't enrolled with VR, so that they can maybe meet up with the benefits planner to give more context about maybe what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I have a question. My son is 18, just turned 18. He graduated school a year early. He only had a credit and a half, so we worked with the school and he did summer school over the summer. So he would have been transitioning this year into something, but with him finishing quickly, what would be the first steps for us? Do we enroll in SSI first? Now, we lived in Pennsylvania first and we did get it. We pretty much had the autism waiver. until we moved out here. And then we just didn't, we had a really nice benefit, so we just really didn't. Plus he was in high school. So what would be the first step for a parent to work without the like, obviously the transition teachers are out of the equation now? What would be the first step for it?
So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for like the health insurance or maybe like the Medicaid waiver services, respite care also would be like a waiver service. If that's what you're looking for, he can apply just for Medicaid. And if he does not want to, is he working? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. So he could apply that way and ask that they make like a disability determination. But most often what happens is the state of North Dakota Medicaid uses Social Security's disability determination. So that would mean that if you want like a combo of like the, you know, the cash benefit to help him live, then I would apply for SSI, and then he can apply for Medicaid after they make that determination. Actually, not after. I don't want to say that. He could apply now, and I would have to look for certain in the Medicaid policy, but he may be eligible for Medicaid while Social Security is making that disability determination. So me as a parent, I mean, he's over 18. They're not going to be looking at mom and dad's income. I would apply for SSI because that cash benefit can be there to like help him live until he figures out his employment goals and work and whatever. And then that Medicaid would come in play. That's kind of how a lot of people go about it, is that they apply for SSI first and then to get the Medicaid. But it depends on like the route. Like if he's working, there's ways that somebody can still qualify and apply for Medicaid and be eligible without having SSI and without having SSDI. They would have to apply for it's a Medicaid group called Workers with Disability Medicaid. So if that's kind of his goal, like if he finds an awesome job and is making bank, that would be another route that he could get into or look at. Jeff, I see the 1619B, and that was the threshold that I had mentioned when I was talking about if there was any kind of income limit, that's $53,007. That's 1619B. It's a different Medicaid group. It's just the name that Medicaid calls it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to switch a little bit now and talk about SSDI. So for those transition age teachers, coordinators, facilitators, you most often are not going to be seeing somebody on SSDI unless they're getting that benefit that's under a mom or dad's work record. That's because you have to work and earn enough credits to become eligible for SSDI. So even though somebody who is younger, when they start working, it takes them fewer credits to become eligible for SSDI than me. Like if I applied, I'm old, I have to get the whole credit. It's like 40 credits to become eligible for SSDI. So every time we are working and we have taxes taken out of our check, we are paying into the Social Security Trust Fund. And you can think of it kind of like paying your car insurance premium. You pay it every month and you're like, oh, I don't want to pay this, but let's say you get into a car accident. Then you can call up your insurance provider and say, hey, I want to fix my car. Same thing. You're paying in when you're paying, your taxes are being taken out of your SSDI, of your paycheck. You're paying in if something was to ever happen. So let's say something does happen and you cannot continue to work. The benefit amount that you would receive on SSDI is determined by how many credits you've earned. And we earn credits every quarter. You can earn a max. So however many credits that you've earned figures out or determines your SSDI benefit amount that you will receive. So to be eligible for SSDI, you can't be performing, they call it SGA. It's substantial gainful activity. And this is like an earning limit that Social Security has to say whether or not somebody's going to be due an SSDI check. And so that's kind of in a nutshell, you can't be earning over SGA. So SGA in 2024 is $1,550. So now let's go, like you are on SSDI now and you want to go to work. When somebody who starts working for the first time after being on SSDI, they have a trial work period. And what the trial work period is, it's 9 months where you can make anything and it's not going to affect your benefits. That SGA limit that I was talking about, that $1,550, this doesn't apply during your trial work period. You could be making $10,000 a month and you would still get your SSDI check for the whole time during your trial work period. Trial work period months don't have to be used like back to back to back. They're just automatically triggered by how much somebody is working and earning. So you can't save your trial work period months to like use a later date. It's just if you earn over a certain amount, I think it's like 1,110, it's 1110, $1,110. That triggers a trial work period month used. So if you are only earning $800, you're not going to use a trial work period month. But let's say the following month you make $1,500, that's using a trial work period. So once you've used all your 9 trial work period months up, then that's when that SGA limit comes into play. So after your 9-month trial work period, they have 3 years after that time where that SGA limit, if you go over that amount, it doesn't mean your SSDI terminates. It just means that you're not due a check that month. But if the following month you're under $1,550, they can restart your SSDI. And so that's super important for people to understand, because if they don't, if they can't keep or maintain that job during that 3 years after the trial work period, they can get their SSDI restarted. And that's a huge concern for people, to think that they're going to lose their cash benefit, but know that, oh, I've got this 3 years where I can get it restarted. It's like a relief to hear that. When I talk about the earning limit of that $1,550, there's ways that people can earn above that and still keep their SSDI. So one of them, I'm going to do them quick blurps. One of them is an impairment related work expense. So these are things that are related to your disability. You need to work, you're paying for them out of your own pocket. You're not getting reimbursed for them by like Medicaid, Medicare. And they're not like crazy amount in cost. So for instance, let's say somebody has is visually impaired and needs to have sunglasses so that they can cover like their protect their eyes. So if they purchase a new pair of sunglasses in the month they're working, the amount that they pay, essentially how it works is that $1,550, whatever they pay allows them to earn a little bit more. Let's say they spend $100. Their limit to explain how it works, their limit becomes $1,650 because they have these $100 glasses. Okay, but if they buy like $500 like Gucci glasses, that's probably not going to fly. So they're not going to be able to, have $500 that they can earn above because they got these $500 Gucci glasses. It's got to be reasonable in cost. Another one is job coaching. So if they have a job coach, let's say the job coach is spending 10 hours a month with them on the job site, Social Security would exclude that amount of time. So how they figure it out is they say, okay, 10 hours of job coaching times whatever that person is making. Let's say they're making 12 bucks an hour. 10 hours times $12 an hour is 120 bucks. So they would exclude 120 bucks of their earnings every month when they're looking to see if they're eligible for their SSDI. So 120 plus that 1550 would be what, 1670. So they could earn up to 1670 and still keep their SSDI because they have 10 hours of job coaching. I'm throwing some quick math out there, but so if it's all wonky, that's all on me. Another one is subsidy. So subsidy would be however their disability affects their job. If their employer's like, yeah, we know that we understand, we know that maybe you can't do XYZ, or maybe it takes you a little bit longer to do certain things, then Social Security would send a questionnaire to that supervisor, and the supervisor would, you know, check off the boxes like, this is how we think the disability affects the job. And then they would identify a specific amount of how that disability affects their job. So if they say, it's usually percentages like 10, 20, 30, 40%. So if they say, I think that person's disability affects them 10% of the time, Social Security would exclude 10% of their wages when they're figuring out if they are over or under that SGA limit. So both these are all things that allow a person to work over the limit and still keep their SSDI. So when I say SGA, it's a decision. It's not really like hard and fast 1550, you're done, you've went over. It's independent on to each person and their disability. So those are ways that people can become they can work over the amount and still be eligible. For SSDI, there is Medicare. SSDI and Medicare go together. SSI and Medicaid go together. So Medicare starts 2 years after they've been entitled to their SSDI. And during that time, before that comes online, the Medicare comes online. Yes, I'm good. In that 2-year time, a lot of times people will apply for Medicaid, and they might be eligible for like traditional Medicaid, or they might be getting Medicaid through Medicaid expansion or ACA Medicaid. At that time, then, when they become eligible for Medicare, ACA Medicaid, Medicaid expansion is no longer there. They can't get it because they're eligible for Medicare. So sometimes you might come across somebody who says, I lost my Medicaid. And it would be because they're in ACA Medicaid. There are ways that they can keep traditional Medicaid, and that one of those is through Workers with Disability Medicaid. And they would pay a 5% premium based on their total income and a $100 enrollment fee, and then they could keep Medicaid while they're working, instead of paying like recipient liability. All right. Any questions? Sorry if I kind of blew through things. If you guys have questions when we're done, feel free to call me or email or whatever. And I'd love to answer your questions, or if you have just maybe some specific case questions or anything like that, please let me know.
Just to kind of clarify, you said you take the job coaching time for that month times the individual's hourly rate.
Yep.
And then that's added on to the SGA of what extra they could make.
That's it. Yes, that would be like the amount of income that they would exclude if they have proof of the job coaching,
Okay.
and the amount of hours. So you know what? Who do you work with?
And Carlson Center.
Okay, so what you could do is email or call, and I can send you a template just to show you like this is what you're going to want to have them send in at the next time they do a work review.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm honestly just blown away by how much you know about Social Security. Especially because you're not using like a PowerPoint or a script. So I mean, just kudos to you, Amy. If you wouldn't mind, if you could put your email in the chat for people to follow up with you, and we will send out some of those like additional resources that we had talked about earlier, just so you don't have to keep track of it in the chat. But yeah, just appreciate everybody's input, and also where Amy left off when she was talking about WWD, that's actually kind of perfect for this case presentation that we have coming up here. So this case was submitted by actually a member of our ECHO team here, and they wanted to just share some of their experiences with navigating the system on their own and without having like a provider there to kind of help them guide them through that process. So they like to share some lessons learned so that other people don't experience the same hardship that they experienced when they were going through this process. So just a little bit of background on this case. This person had graduated college in 2014 and they worked at NDSU for a year after they graduated. During that time, they had started utilizing benefits planner services through RSI. But then they became unemployed up until 2022 when they started working for NDCPD. So once again, they started working with a benefits planner, and he was told that his options were to open an ABLE account or enroll in the WWD program, the Workers with Disabilities program that Amy had just mentioned. At the time, he decided to open up an ABLE account, but he didn't actually utilize it, so he never actually put any money into it. Because one of the fallbacks with ABLE accounts in this person's experience is that money can only be used for disability related expenses. And I think that that's where maybe some confusion came into play. So eventually, this person decided that they wanted to enroll in Workers with Disabilities, which allows you to buy into Medicaid to increase your asset limit. However, with the popularity in this person's experience, with the popularity of ABLE accounts, many of the Medicaid professionals that they were working with at the time were not aware of the WWD program because it's not been utilized as much in the past 10 years as it was prior to that. So it took a lot of persistence to get enrolled in that. So some barriers that they encountered, like we mentioned, you know, the Medicaid professionals not knowing about the WWD program. Also, another thing that they experienced was Medicaid was utilizing a call center type service, which included like really long wait times, which was really frustrating to deal with, and ended up resulting in that person hanging up before they actually got to a representative. Because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do that too. So they really wanted to share some lessons learned. Eventually, the person was able to enroll in Workers with Disabilities. Unfortunately, they did lose their Medicaid for about 4 months during that time period, and they had to pay for their home health services out of pocket, which cost about $900 per month. So our case presenter really wanted to share with you to do your homework beforehand and follow through with your choices. So if you're going to go the ABLE account way, make sure that you're utilizing that ABLE account because one, they were really easy to set up, but two, it probably would have saved some hardship with losing Medicaid for those 4 months while they were trying to figure out how to enroll in the WWD program. So one thing that I was thinking of when we were putting together this case was what are some suggestions and strategies to help people navigate Social Security? So I guess, Amy, this might be a question more for you. How many benefits planners are there in North Dakota?
So there are, for me, for knowing how to explain this, CWIC. So I'm a CWIC that is partially funded through the Social Security Administration. So that would be like one benefits planner. We also have like we have a contract with the state VR agency, and that allows us to bring on another benefits planner. Other agencies can provide benefits planning services through like the 1915I waiver. So as long as they're Medicaid eligible, they could get some benefits planning services from other providers, not just RSI, other providers across the state.
Good to know. Did not know that about the 19, I'm sorry, was it 1915I waiver?
1915I waiver, yeah. So they just have to be Medicaid eligible and then obviously eligible for the 1915I waiver.
And so just some clarification, what are the disability related expenses for ABLE accounts? I guess when I hear it, I kind of assume like medical equipment and like healthcare costs, but can it pay for more than that?
Absolutely. In fact, ABLE accounts were designed to maintain and increase quality of life. So I say, like, if you can trace it around to how it relates to a person's disability, it would be an approved expense. So because of that maintain or increase quality of life, you could be using it for rent. You could be using it for like transportation costs. I saw a presentation when they first went online. I saw this guy at the Able National Resource Center, which there is, I'm going to put it in the chat here. This is a great website to access information about ABLE accounts, ablenrc.org. And from there, you can compare state ABLE accounts because North Dakota does not have one, but we can enroll in any out-of-state ABLE account that is offering out-of-state enrollment. So just a quick, when I saw this guy present, his brother, he's a part of the ABLE National Resource Center. His brother had a disability and he opened an ABLE account and he had Down syndrome and he used the money in his ABLE account to take a trip. He went down to Florida and he went to a concert, all from his ABLE account. So you're like, well, how does that work? Well, his disability, one of his struggles that he struggled with was increasing his independence and, socializing with other people. And so that was how they tied it around to how it relates to his disability and should be a disability approved or related expense. So they don't pigeonhole the expenses into one thing because everybody is so unique. So again, if you can relate it around and back, then it would be an approved expense. Aside from like the obvious, like the rent and whatevs.
Yeah, that's great to know. So thank you for including that website. We'll make sure that we include that too. I am looking at time and I see that we are running kind of close on time. And since it is election day, I want to make sure that we end on time for anybody who needs to go out and vote. So I do want to leave some resources here for everybody. We do have one of our North Dakota navigators here on the call and it is open enrollment, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so could you just give us a little overview of what ND navigators do?
Yeah, so we don't help as much with traditional Medicaid, like for people with disabilities, but we do help with expansion and marketplace enrollment. So maybe if somebody falls out of that eligibility range, or they just, choose to allow themselves to make more money, and they aren't within those parameters, then we can help people, or we can help connect people with the right Medicaid resources in a broad range of situations. So we might not have all the answers, but we probably have the connection for someone who does.
And I'm such a huge fan of this program because it's completely free to utilize their services. Like they're not paid or sponsored by anybody. It's a government or a grant contracted service. So if you ever find yourself needing health insurance and you don't want to do the adult thing of trying to figure it out on your own, call a navigator and they can help out for sure. So yeah, it is right at 4:30. If you all could take a moment to fill out our survey, it's right there in the chat. Thank you again, Amy, for sharing all of this wonderful knowledge. And thank you, Eliza. That's really great to hear. They mentioned, thank you. It was incredibly helpful. So I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation and share this information. So yeah, please take a moment to fill that out and happy voting.
All right. Thanks, guys.